Hello, and welcome to another video lecture for Mr. Mosier's 8th grade U.S. History class. This will be a second part of a multiple series looking at World War I. Today's focus is going to come out of two sections of the textbook, The Road to War, pages 720 to 724, and America Prepares for War, pages 725 and 729. The guiding questions today are: what are the three major allies in World War I? Who are the three major central powers in World War I? What is neutrality? How was American neutrality tested by the warring nations in World War I? What happened to Lusitania? And what was the Zimmerman telegram? When World War I broke out, you've got kind of two major sides. You have one side called the Allies, and the other side generally known as the Central Powers. On the side of the Allies, there's lots of countries that fought with the Allies, especially colonies, so some of these nations. But the three major players for the Allies when the war initially breaks out will be Russia, Great Britain, and France. The Central Powers, named after the fact that they were in Central Europe, mostly will include Germany, the Ottoman Empire, which would be Turkey today, and the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Sides that are neutral in Europe, there's lots of countries that stay neutral as well. They don't pick a side during the conflict. And so if we look at a map of the World War I, here are sides. So the Central Powers: Central Europe, Germany, Austria, Bulgaria, the Ottoman Empire, which is modern-day Turkey. And then, of course, you have the Allies, which is Russia, Serbia, Greece, Italy, France, Belgium, Great Britain. And, of course, countries that remain neutral, countries like Spain, Iceland, Norway, and Sweden, Switzerland don't get involved at all. And that brings us to America, which also seeks neutrality when the war breaks out. And neutrality is this belief of not really taking a side, it's refusing to militarily pick sides during the conflict. And America really didn't want to get involved in this war for a variety of reasons. One, with having such a large European immigrant population coming to the United States between 1880 and 1914, you had a lot of diverse immigrants from some of these warring nations. And a lot of Americans didn't want their new country to go to war with their old country. And just generally, a lot of Americans just felt that what was going on in the crisis in Europe was just unknown. It was just better to stay out of that trouble, the problems, a quagmire, if you will, of issues if we did get involved into this conflict. And this political cartoon definitely speaks to this idea of American neutrality, that this is on the other side of the ocean. This is some big questions, some big problems, and there could be some all kinds of whirlpools and jagged rocks that we could get really banged up by. So getting involved in this conflict is probably not in America's best interest. And in a large ways, though, we aren't truly neutral, because we do provide some assistance to the Allies, especially two countries that we are very close with, France and Great Britain. We do loan those countries money, which in turn then use that money to buy weapons from our manufacturers. And it's good business for us. A lot of our manufacturing and businesses are making a large amount of money selling weapons and war technologies to the French and the British. So even though technically we are neutral, we are providing assistance, at least in the terms of supplies and weapons, to the Allied side, the French and the British. Which is helping those sides win the war and preventing Germany from being victorious, which really frustrates Germany, which Germany begins threatening to sink Allied merchant ships carrying these weapons to Europe, to England. And actually the ambassador of Germany in the United States actually puts an advertisement in a newspaper which reads, "Travelers intending to embark on the Atlantic voyage are reminded that a state of war exists between Germany and her allies and Great Britain and her allies, that some of the war includes the waters adjacent to the British Isles, that it's in accordance with formal notice given by the Imperial German government that vessels flying the flag of Great Britain or of any of her allies are liable to destruction in those waters, and that travelers sailing in the war, some on ships of Great Britain or her allies, do so at their own risk." So sort of threatens that these ships are in danger to German U-boats, which are submarines that are kind of patrolling the waters around Great Britain and threatening to sink these ships, merchants or otherwise, flying the flag of Great Britain as bringing in weapons to help out the British. And that's exactly what happens with the ship, the Lusitania, which on May 1st, 1915, off the coast of Ireland, is sunk by a German U-boat torpedo, killing many on board, including some Americans. President Wilson is outraged, many Americans are outraged, but does not ask for a declaration of war with Germany. Instead writes a harsh letter, a protest letter, asking the Kaiser of Wilhelm, the leader of Germany, to stop this unrestricted submarine warfare, which they do for a short period of time. But Wilson does not ask Congress to declare a war. Now, that's about to change here as we get into 1916, 1917 here. So it's 1917, kind of new phase here. Germany declares unlimited submarine warfare again, so they go back and sinking ships, including merchant ships carrying American supplies to Great Britain. The British are really struggling by 1917. They're kind of running out of money and they're running out of soldiers to fight, and so they kind of hand what they feel is kind of like an ace in a card, a note called the Zimmermann Telegram. Now, Zimmermann was actually a German ambassador who wrote a secret cable message to the Mexican government, basically asking Mexico to side with Germany if America goes to war, that Germany would assist Mexico, and if Mexico fought on the side of the Central Powers, that they could then go to war with the United States and try to reclaim some of this lost territory that Mexico lost in the American-Mexican War in the 1840s. Now, Germany did this secretly. This is, of course, a secret message that was sent out. It was intercepted by the British, given over to the Americans, and the Americans read this. This becomes public knowledge, and the Americans are just outraged. So between the fact that now they're sinking ships again with submarines, with the U-boats, and torpedoing them, and with the Zimmermann Telegram, Wilson finally had enough, and most of the American public was getting pretty outraged at Germany at the time, and so Wilson goes before Congress and asks for a formal declaration of war, which according to our Constitution, Congress is, of the three branches, only Congress has the authority to declare war on another country, which they do on April 6th, 1917. And in 1917, we really weren't prepared for war. We only had about 200,000 men in our standing army. But very soon it will swell upwards to 3 million as more and more Americans are recruited into military service to go fight into the fields of France, into the trenches of France, to defeat Germany. And so America is finally dragged into this war in the spring of 1917 and is now a part of World War I. So these are the sides and some of the main reasons why America was kind of pulled into the war. The Lusitania sinking and submarine warfare and the Zimmermann Telegram all slowly will kind of test American neutrality, and eventually America will be dragged into this conflict. Thank you for listening. As always, if you have questions, please make sure you ask your teacher.